Hello, this is your captain speaking, and today we're going to be flying over Kagoshima, which as you can see from the map, and this is the map of the lower part of Kyushu Island, which is the southernmost portion of Japan, at least the main part of Japan. And as you can see, Kagoshima is in a beautiful bay that essentially is protected by the sea. If you look carefully, you should be able to see the actual ocean off to the left-hand side, and you can see the inner bay as we're approaching Kagoshima, which is up in the center of the horizon. We're now jumping ahead because this is a fairly long flight. We're jumping ahead into Kagoshima itself. The city has about 600,000 residents, and the overall Kagoshima prefecture has maybe 1.9 million residents. So Kagoshima is about a third the size of the population of the overall prefecture. Now, the actual tour in Kagoshima, where the ship's going to stop, there's only a few excursions, and those excursions are going to take you to three primary places. The first one, and the one that most of them will go to, is called Senganen Gardens, and those gardens were the summer home of the Shimatsu clan that controlled the area for several hundred years. And the other place we're going to go to is the Museum of the Meiji Restoration. Now that restoration took place fundamentally and primarily in the Tokyo or Edo area. However, it turns out that a number of students who lived in Kagoshima played a significant role in it, and presumably you'll hear about their role if you end up going to that museum or if any of the guides talk about it. Anyway, right now we're headed over the city, and I'll let you take a little flight over it, and then we'll turn to the third area that there's going to be an excursion, and you'll hear quite a bit about that in a few minutes.
Cessna 182. Kagoshima approach Cessna.
You can see the little sign, that little marker for something that is other than Kagoshima. I think it was Taniyama. That is just a little area inside the overall city of Kagoshima, which we're flying over. As you can see, like most Japanese cities, Kagoshima itself is densely packed. And in this case, it's pretty much on the ocean, right on that bay, with the small foothills behind it. now see the third the third area that we'll have an excursion, and that's that mountain right out in front of us, only that mountain happens to be an active volcano. It's the Sakurajima Volcano. Microsoft Flight Simulator doesn't have smoke coming out of it, but there's a good chance that when we're there, you will see smoke coming out of it. Although I can guarantee you that if the volcanologists believe that there's a chance of it exploding, we certainly won't be stopping there. But those of you who choose will be able to take an excursion that goes across the bay and stops in the foothills, stops in the area just beneath the mountain. What we're going to do on this flight, however, is something quite different. We're going to go up close and fly around the volcano up close and personal, similar to what we did in Mount Fuji in an earlier flight. You saw the plane rise up. That's because I was flying very low, and if I flew that low into the over the mountain, it would crash into it. So I have to gain a whole bunch of altitude before we can fly around the mountain. Anyway, we've skipped ahead a little bit, and you can now start to see the mountain up close. Just for reference, when we were flying over the city, we were flying at something like somewhere between 300 and 500 feet. Right now we're up around 2,200 feet. And I think we'll reach a little over 3,000, so you can see how high the mountain goes up.
Cessna 182. Goodbye. Kanoya approach Cessna Charlie Alpha Zulu 182, 3,200 feet.
Cessna Charlie Alpha Zulu 182, Kanoya approach altimeter 29.9, 2 radar contact, continue. Cessna 182, contact Kagoshima approach on 119.4. Good day.
119.4 Cessna 182. Goodbye. Kagoshima approach Cessna Charlie Alpha Zulu 182, 3,500 feet.
Of course, you can now see the mountain from the top. You can see where the crater is itself as we're flying over it. And incidentally, you should understand that when you're flying a small plane like this near such a high mountain, even if it's a flight simulator, it's not necessarily the safest thing you can do. Anyway, we've now gone beyond the mountain, and as you can see, the bay itself continues off into the distance. In fact, there are two more small cities that are right at the absolute end of the bay. We're going to head toward those small cities, then we're going to skip ahead and we're going to land. The plane that we're flying in is the Cessna 172, and we took off from a small airport in the southern part of the, if you will, the bay, and we're landing at an airport in the northern part. Now, one of the questions that you may ask when you're on any of the excursions is why they put the main city, Kagoshima, right across from an active volcano instead of making the main city up here. That would seem to me to be the logical idea, and in fact a significant population in the Kagoshima prefecture lives up here. We can now see the airport, which is called the Kagoshima Airport. We can now see it off in the distance, and it's a few kilometers away. Now get a beautiful view of how far the overall island of Kyushu stretches. You can see some of the mountains in the distance. A number of them are volcanic. In fact, this is the whole island of Kyushu has a lot of volcanic activity associated with it. In fact, if you remember, Beppu was at the top of the island, and that was in a had a caldera near it, and it had all these hot springs. Anyway, we're approaching the Kagoshima airport. I'd like to thank you for flying Air Kaz today. I hope you've enjoyed the trip.
$500.